showtime.
Welcome to Demond Does the 6 Questions, where the same 6 questions can tell a unique story. I am your host, Demond, father of two, husband of one, and leader of this here Demondcast. Remember, get on Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review. It helps us out. It helps us get seen by more viewers, the more reviews we have. And the review could say anything from mission accomplished to following instructions to your favorite healthy recipe. Doesn't matter. If you can help us out, though, that would be awesome. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Demond Does the 6 Questions, and today I am here with entrepreneur Miguel Hampton. You are into all sorts of things. If I listed them all, it would probably be a half hour, so I guess we'll just skip through the questions.
No, it's up to you. Now, I'm into all kind of, you'll say things, I'll say shit, stuff. I do creative marketing, PR, photography, videography, run my mouth. I teach business development and growth strategies. Right now, I seem to be a serial campaigner because I keep running for office because I have issues. I also run political campaigns and manage political campaigns. And all just a creative guy out here trying to find his way. We moved here from New Jersey. I was in fashion retail, worked for Claire's, and they had a fashion division called Mr. Rags. And I was their district sales manager, and so I started out there, and we can do the backstory, forward story, but started out there, ended up running the Northeast. They went out of business, and while they were going out of business or selling the company, I kind of quit. And then between there, I had a small business where we were doing, I managed a guy named Jake Roxwell out of Utah, and his beginning of his hip hop career, which was really cool. But he also worked for me at Rags while we were out there as well. And so as I quit Rags and I went out west to kind of do a tour with him, Tia got pregnant, who's my wife, and she said, I'm going to see my mom. I said, cool, see you when I get back. Somewhere she tells that story far better than I will ever do. And then I landed here being Jeffersonville, Indiana, right outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And oddly enough, couldn't find a job. And so, degree in business management, several years of experience. It took my father-in-law to call a friend to say, hey, son-in-law's looking for a job, can't find one. You think you can help him out? So here's the problem. I make 6 figures and I'm 20-something years old. And I have a lot of fringe benefits, and I have a bit of an ego that comes with that package. I now exist in a world that won't offer me more than $30,000 a year, and at 18 years old, I made that much money.
Fair enough.
So, I was a little arrogant in that job pursuit. Needless to say, a lady named Agnes Stewart, who owned a company called Incentives, they were a promotional products company, black-owned company, which was interesting because I'd never met a black business owner prior to that.
Really?
They did promotional products, which I had no idea what the hell that was. I was like, what the hell is a promotional product, right? And so they gave me some education, and then I realized I knew exactly what a promotional product was. And we'd used them for years in the different companies that I had worked for. And so she said, hey, she was straight up and honest. She was like, look, we can't afford you. We can't even come close to giving you what you're accustomed to making, but I can help you make that kind of money. And so she's like, I'll help you pay for your insurance, meaning I had to pay for half of it, which was really expensive, which was half of the money that they were paying me.
Wow.
So, but we had a baby on the way, and I didn't know any better. And so without any other opportunities that existed in my world, in order to stay here, I took it, which was really dope because I got to learn what I would call there's tiers of marketing and advertising, right? The industry. And we were the bottom of the tier. And so I got to understand an industry that most people aren't familiar about, unless you're a corporate buyer in that sense. But we all wear some type of branded or promotional product. And so then it was called promotional products. That branding thing came later in life. No one was really talking about brand to me unless you were a large brand.
Right.
But that's since changed over the last couple of years. Needless to say, went to work for them, Agnes opened up a doorway that I'd never been in, and I brought my expertise to them. I understood the retail side. I understood trends. I understood what it meant to launch national platforms and national programs or retail programs. And so in the promotional products business, there was this organic integration that was happening, both from the manufacturer side as well as from the distributor side. And we were a distributor. At the time, happened to be, at one point, Agnes was the largest African-American owned distributor, ASI, promotional products distributor in the region. I think they were doing like 10 million a year. It's amazing, right? I came in on kind of the back side of it, the downslope on their way out. Agnes was, I think at the time, probably 65. So they were older. It started it in 1985, been really successful. They introduced me to the world and it just caught fire. And so part of promotional products are anything that you can print. As a distributor, we basically match our clients with a manufacturer who can deliver a product that fits their brand or their rhyme and reason for doing some type of promotional giveaway. Maybe they're doing a trade show or something to that degree. I took my retail background from what I know, was able to patch into companies like Toyota or Norton's, where we were able to help them do corporate retail programs, and worked with people like Churchill Downs, Kentucky Derby Festival. And then I'm pretty creative, so I could take something that didn't exist and a client could say, hey, we want, how does this widget get created? How does it get placed? How do we use it? And typically I could come up with something and deliver. But that's the short version of this long ass story.
Question number 1. When did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I didn't. So the challenge with doing this interview today is that I'm trying to decide how authentic I want to be. I'm challenged about where I am mentally right now, right? So I know most people are going to hear, oh, he's mental. No, fuck that. It's really my mental process in terms of what you go through as an entrepreneur, being out here in this world. We go through a series of ups and downs and things that work, things that don't work. We go through a series of losing money, resources, friends, and family. That's the shit that nobody tells you. But in that, I have to say, honestly, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to be black in America and not have an opportunity to get a job because white people wouldn't hire you. I started my first business. I grew up telling everybody I was 14. My mother, in the last year or two, reminded me I was 11. But we lived in all white America. And I was the only brown black kid in the community. I was 11 years old, so nobody would give me a job. So I created one. And so a friend of mine, we were like, hey, let's go wash the windows of downtown Marysville, Ohio. And long story short, my mom and his parents supported that stupid endeavor. And they let 2 young middle school kids go downtown and negotiate the opportunity to wash windows. And we did that for the entire summer and made stupid money. I think we charged like $5 a window for the inside and then $5 for the windows on the outside. So we were basically making $10 a window per window in downtown for downtown stores. And we did that for a pretty long summer. My mother tells me we did that until the unions realized that was a union job and we shouldn't be doing it. But true story, I got into entrepreneurship because like most people, in the black community and I would say economically challenged black communities, kids sell drugs, right? That's their opportunity. I lived in white America. There was no opportunity to sell drugs. Otherwise, I probably would have. So what I did is I washed windows. Which is something that falls into the line of black folks too, is some degree of, hospitality servitude. And those are jobs that we can typically get. So, but that's really all I started. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be successful at whatever I was going to do. I wanted to find opportunities. How did I become an entrepreneur as an adult? Because that went for a really long time. As a kid, I was constantly creating. When I couldn't find a job, I create a job. And so I worked for Kroger's like most kids, bagging groceries and hustling on the side because we learned that you could hustle bagging groceries and moving carts. Right. And so we would find extra money there. And then I had a paper route at one point in time and, found out that you could hustle on the paper route too. Definitely when the paper route guy decided that he wasn't going to pay me, but I still had all his papers and people still wanted to buy papers. At one point in time, I got into the restaurant business, enjoyed cooking. And so I ended up creating a snack shop and selling other ancillary things on campus when I went to undergrad. I wasn't like a lot of kids. I always felt more like most of the kids at my school had money. I didn't have any. right? And so the only way that I was going to get money was to hustle. I didn't have a dad to call. I mean, I had a dad to call, but he wasn't giving me shit. You know, I had a mom I could call, but she couldn't afford to give me shit, right? And so, you know, that's the whole point of opportunity. That's the lie we tell everybody: go to college and you'll get a good job. Right. You know, that's what we tell black kids until they get out in white America and realize they can't get a job, because if 10 of them show up, only one of them is probably going to get it. And if you're a woman, you're luckier than you are if the guy. That's a whole nother story. That being said, I created my own opportunities on campus along with a bunch of buddies, and we went on to that. And then I got hustled into working for Wendy's, which was cool because I needed a job. I used to ride my 10-speed bike in Ohio winters to work, right? Because the guy told me he could help me get to corporate once I graduated. Then I realized he was a franchisee and he was a dick and he was a liar. So
there's that.
There's that, right? I mean, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to be successful. Now, I've found entrepreneur opportunities in every aspect of what we were doing in that process. Because while we were still in Ohio, I employed most of my friends who went to college, or showed them opportunities where there were, but we were still hustling on the side. Doing what? Printing T-shirts, you know, printing paper. My homeboys were DJs, and so we were doing parties and things like that. You know, my man Dami used to make these CDs called Making Babies, and we would sell them to the record stores. So we were still doing all of that while I was in my career. And then when I went to Utah, I ended up opening a record label. Really more record management, only because I had employees who were in that space. I met some really dope people outside of the business who really taught me a lot in terms of promotion and how to be out here and be independent. And if I'm gonna be real honest, I took experiences from the relationship that I knew with kids who hustled in the street. I was able to take the things that they were doing and do them legally without the idea of going to jail and creating new opportunities. I mimicked a lot of it. Needless to say, that moved on, and so I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to own my own shit, be independent. There's a difference between freedom and independence, and I believe it all day long. And we talk about that later. Landed at Incentives, right? And then during that period while I was at Incentives, they sold the company. And so I was part of that sale. They made me the vice president of sales, which was really cool. At the same time, I was getting recruited by a company called Pacific Somewhere to help them out because they were downsizing their demo divisions in the Midwest. And so I worked for both companies at the same time. And then shortly after that, maybe about 6-8 months, I found myself with no home again. Both companies, PacSun had shut down all their demo and test divisions because of the bad economy. Incentives was on their way out the door. You know, Tia will tell the story. I was sitting on the porch looking like I had nowhere to go. And I didn't. And she was like, let's go get your LeBray pierced. And I was like, cool, let's do that. I'm not going back to work no time soon. Didn't know that was true. So got my LeBray pierced, and then true story, I never went back to work for anybody else. I've been working for myself ever since. And again, out of necessity. I didn't choose this. Well, yes, I did. I chose it. But I didn't choose what happened. I didn't choose what road drove me down this way. I just woke up and knew that I had the capacity to create opportunities at the minimum amount of money that people was already willing to pay me. And I said, why work for you for $30,000 a year when I can get that myself? And so that's really how F5 Enterprises was born. You know, I started out doing some consulting for small retailers in Ohio, to working with churches, and then somebody asked me for some graphic design, and then somebody asked me for some photography, and then somebody asked me to stand on the stoop and be pretty, you know, and here we are.
Question number 2. What do you wish you had known when you had first started out?
Man.
Well, not even first started out, just what do you wish you had known when you had started out?
I'm fighting with that one, bro. I saw that when you text me, and I was like, yo, what is this? And I think that's the one that's keeping me up today, right?
Really?
Because here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know, right? True. You don't know what you don't know. You only know what you experience. And entrepreneurship is not an easy task. This is, in my opinion, this is probably one of the most riskful things anyone can do in their life. It's easy to go work for somebody because they've already put in the sweat equity, they have the resources, and all they're doing is giving you a check for the minimum amount of value that you think you're worth for your time, right? Most of us don't value our time that much, so that's another story. If I can answer this question like this, so I guess I would say as an entrepreneur, someone who's out here socially and economically and politically in the world, I'm battle tested, I'm scarred, right? So I got a lot of baggage.
Okay.
If I knew the things that I was going to do to make sure that opportunities were equal, I wonder if I would do them. Would I have done them? Would I have spoken up when I shouldn't have? have or when no one else would. What I've taken opportunities when I was the only black or brown person, when no other opportunities existed. What I've run for office twice, what I've taken someone else's campaigns and run their campaigns, thinking about lending practices and how racist systemically our banking institutions and our federal government is as it relates to lending and how we allow people based on the shade of their color to have access to resources. What I've gone down that road, what I know about white people in general, wealthy white people, wealthy institutions, and how they treat black men or Afro-Latino men, as I classify, in business endeavors, would I have done anything different? So I think if you think about all the things that I've learned, and to give you an example, the first time I went to get a bank loan for a business, right? No one knew whether I had money or didn't have money, right? And I know wealthy people don't make poor people rich. I relatively don't have shit, don't come from much. It's not like I have friends or family that I can call to get money to start a business. And most of the world, that's what they'll tell you how to start, right? And I don't have that, right? But nobody knows that until you tell them. Right? Nobody doesn't know that you don't have money until you tell them. Nobody doesn't know that you don't have resources. All they see is this perceived value. The first time I went to get lending, opened up the door to what I did or didn't have. So now you can add or take away value from that perception. And so I went to go get a loan for a business, and they referred me to the micro enterprise program. And that's typically used for people who are economically challenged, who can't meet a certain grid, typically are uneducated, have no career, and really have no experience in business per se. And they usually will lend you $3,000, $5,000. If you're lucky, you can get a $24,000 loan, right? It's typically a low interest, short-term loan, but it's usually enough money for a person to fail, not for them really to create an opportunity. And so I got referred to that because no one was going to lend me. What was crazy is the instructor at the time said, "Hey, Miguel, what are you doing in here?" I said,
Wow.
I said, "I needed a business loan," and they told me this is where I come. He said, "But you could teach this class." I said, "I know, my experience alone will allow me to teach this class, not only the fact that I have 2 degrees in business management at this point." And he was like, "Yeah, I got you."
Wow.
Right? So that's just the reality, right? Had I known that I exposed my hand to where my economic value meant to this community that I lived in, would I have taken that same road, right? Because I didn't get all the money. There was still some discrimination play in that world, even in that process. We still were able to succeed doing many of the things that we did with minimal amount of money. But the reality of it is I know my white counterparts could get 3 to 4 times that in a traditional system, looking the same way on paper. The only reason I know is because I teach those classes. So I don't know. I think the art, one of my things is to do what you've never done, you must do what you've never done. And so I think in this world, it's about taking the first steps to learn, right? And once you learn, then what do? If you tell me how you're going to treat me, I can tell you how I'm going to react.
Question number 3. What's your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
Don't have a favorite hometown restaurant. Okay. I really don't like food. I like sweets.
We've had this discussion. Yes. Please put this on.
Give me a honey bun. Give me a moon pie. give me Little Debbie in my backyard. That would be my hometown restaurant, right? If I had a restaurant to go to, it'd be Cracker Barrel, but you can also buy moon pie there. You can buy jelly beans. You can buy gummy worms, and that's what I typically grab on my way out the door. If Thornton's was a hometown restaurant, right to the left-hand side when you walk in are apple danishes, moon pies, and a nutty bar. That's my meal of preference, truth be told, but it's scary as hell because it'll give you diabetes and make you fat. My wife has to regulate the shit I eat because it ain't healthy. So I don't have a favorite restaurant. If I do, it's breakfast. Okay. So whatever restaurant is local that serves breakfast, it's decent breakfast, and they have grits. If you don't have grits, I typically will walk out.
Question number 4. What are you curious about?
Not a fucking thing. No, I'm just joking. Everything, yo. I'm curious about everything. I'm curious about how people function. I'm curious about what makes the world tick. I'm curious about economics. I'm curious about why black people in America love fucking America. I'm curious about why we allow white people to dictate our livelihood. I'm curious about why we don't really understand economics, the way white people understand economics. I hate when we use the word affordable housing and black people are like, yes, we need more affordable housing. And white people are like, no, motherfucker, we need to develop your land and kick y'all out so we can build affordable housing and sell that shit to somebody who can afford it. But I'm curious about a lot of shit. My most curiosity probably right now is how is it that I can teach people to do the things that they don't know how to do when I struggle doing it for myself, right? So I can teach you how to make $1 million, but sometimes I struggle to be able to do it myself. I have the knowledge, the talent, the resources, and there's these roadblocks that I face. And I think all entrepreneurs face them. I've built what I've built to survive. And that transition from survival to thrival was a little unique and it's a little different in personal life and all these things come into play. But I think that's what I'm curious about. What's my next level? Where am I going and how do I get there? That's what I'm curious about because I don't know. Nothing nobody can answer. Just shit you got to do.
How long have you felt like you've been at that place?
Oh, for a while now. For a long while now. As my wife say, I will grind through anything to get somewhere. And that is a true story. I've probably always been there. When I was in 6th grade, I wrote this little morbid-ass poem and drew a picture and it said, the greatest thing I'll ever do is die. Right? And it got published when I was in 6th grade. It was super cool. Then I wasn't really sure what I was writing or where it came from. And then I realized later in life that, in order for you to move beyond, you almost kind of like a butterfly or a caterpillar, you got to cocoon yourself off and move on. But I realized that the character of Miguel, and whatever phase he's in has to die in order for him to move forward. Mm-hmm. Not physically die, but just kind of metaphorically, things have to be shed off and move. So I think I've always been curious about where I was going and how I was going to get there because I never really told a real story. People be like, where do you come from? And be like, oh, my family comes from Panama. They're fairly wealthy, super educated, yada, yada, yada. And it looks good and it feels good. But the reality of it is that I didn't come from that. My family came from that. I came from a very volatile, domestic, violent household, surrounded by, on the outside of our house, child molesters and drug dealers and gangbangers to really racist-ass fucking white people. How do you get to a place that's safe? How do you get to equality? How do you find economic stability? How do you not have to fight? Like, I was born to fight. I feel like that. Oddly enough, I was born at Fort Knox Army Hospital, right? So I'm born on a military base. I'm born to fight. Been fighting all my fucking life. So that's my curiosity. Who am I tomorrow? How do I get there? There's goals and ambitions. I still have them. I'm getting older. I'm tired as fuck sometimes. I work a lot, work hard. But I am curious where I'm going to be. I've been there for a really long time, probably all my life. More so lately than maybe the last 2 or 3 years than ever before. But lots have changed. Lots of things have happened. Got a lot of baggage.
Do you really think that you have to be getting somewhere?
Oh, yeah, you got to go somewhere.
What was it about the journey to get there?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, just from, like, we've been in each other's lives over the last 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. And this is, we've had a few conversations, but some of the things you told me I've never heard before. That it's one of the reasons I do these is because everybody has a unique, interesting journey. We've all got different variations on our ups and downs. Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if there's is there any place to get, really?
I hope so. I don't know. Maybe it's a constant journey. I need this, whatever fucking journey I'm on right now, need to come to a close and something better happen.
That's fair.
But I think you can get somewhere. And I think we have to, you're making me think, of course, and answer my own question. We have to define where that is and what that is. Right. Maybe we want the house on the hill in a nice community, or maybe in a nice remote area. You know, maybe we want to achieve financial stability, and what does that look like, right? You know, for some people, financial stability is having a job and going to work every day and smiling at their boss and knowing that their company is going to be there for the rest of their lives, and they're going to have this American middle class utopia. Or maybe it's building an empire, a degree of wealth and things like that. So yeah, I think you can get somewhere. I think for me, it's just trying to figure out where that is, because I think I had a vision. Mm-hmm. I've had multiple visions. So when I was little, I told my mom I'd retire. I'd make my first $1 million and retire before I was 40. You know, the cool part is that, you know, when I go back and calculate it, I did all that. I didn't retire per se, but I've probably retired several times, and I've lost a shitload of money several times. But I think maybe, you know, out of that curiosity piece is what does the end look like now? Right? If there's an end in mind. Not the end in the depth of a sense, but the end of the next step, the next journey. And when does the next one begin? You know, I think for me more so, when does the struggle end? You know, when does the challenge end? You know, when you I remember, and I don't know, I have so many stories. Like I remember first time, racism is an interesting thing because it has really fucked me up. But I remember when I was sitting down working with a guy, and my office was on 10th Street in Jeff, and he was opening a ice cream yogurt space over near the high school, and he talked about painting a Klan mural on his wall. To pay tribute to the community. I was okay. So the guy hired me. He was from Cincinnati. He was opening up an ice cream shop by Jeff High, and he wanted to paint a Klan mural on his wall to celebrate the community.
What?
Yeah. When you have experiences like that, you know, so for me, it's kind of like, when does the struggle end? Like when, you know, so for me, if I'm saying, hey, I want justice, I want equality, I want economic equality, I want to live in a community that people support me, you know, based on my black skin and heritage. When does that struggle stop? Because later years happen, and I have a client and the economy is bad, and he sits me down and we're doing some design work and some other things for them, and he says, Miguel, as much as we love doing work with you, we can't work with you anymore. We got to give the business to people that look like us. So, like I said, I'm a little worn-torn, you know, and I've got some baggage living in the community that I live in, doing business in the community that I live in. And so there's a challenge. So I guess my curiosity is, for me, is when does the struggle end? Mm-hmm. You know, when is that journey? When do I get to the journey of equality? When do I get to the journey where I don't have to fight every fucking day because I'm black first? I love creating opportunities, but I hate having to create an opportunity because racism exists. That's my curiosity. That's where I land today.
Question number 5. Is there anything I should have asked but didn't?
People sometimes ask how I've survived the way that I've survived, and how I've conducted business the way that I've conducted business. You know, when a lot of my counterparts have gone out of business, you know, the longest thing I've ever done is be self-employed, considering every company that I've ever worked for has shut down a division or have completely gone out of business, whether they're publicly traded or independently traded. Wow. Or independently owned. And so, you know, that's a question that often people ask, and really I tell them that has nothing to do with more than God, because God has a better vision than I can ever have. Yeah, I'm smart. Like I said, I'm just smart enough and talented enough to see when things are coming. Sometimes I'm way too ahead of the curve. Sometimes I'm right on it. When we talk about entrepreneurship and we talk about business ownership, or even just business management and development and growth strategy overall, I consider myself having a really unique talent for sustainability and growth. My other curiosity is that now that I'm in this growth phase, I'm trying to figure out how the fuck to do it myself. Like, I can grow my clients, I can grow people who come see me, I can take them and say, hey, this is the next level, this is the next plan, this is how we approach it, this is how we roll it out, boom, let's go get it. But I sometimes struggle doing it for myself.
Why do you think that is? You said that 3 or 4 times now.
I don't know what it is. I'm working on it. I can't figure it out. It could be an environment I live in. It could be I fight all the fucking time. Like, I can't sit at the table and not see the injustice. And where some people will say nothing because they know that if they say something, it affects their economic positioning. I can't. I have to say something. I have to call the kettle black. I gotta say, this plan is discriminatory, and that you're only gonna allow 2% of the minority people to sit at the table. This is bullshit. Rewrite the policy. Why are we not looking at a bigger picture? Well, I live in a population that there's only 14% of the folks are African American, and maybe 3% are Hispanic, and very few of us own businesses. Most of us work for other companies, but I'm the loudmouth in the bunch, right? And so I'm constantly an advocate for the little guy. Well, I'm a little guy. I just happen to be a little guy who have figured out some things along the way and how to survive and to some capacity without doing things illegally, to maintain my own status quo. I don't know what the other pieces are. I mean, I could tell you if it was another company what I would do. Stages, step 1, step 2, step 3. Sometimes they require resources that I don't have. It requires resources that you don't have. Sometimes it requires to put people together and teams together that help you execute the dream. No one does it alone. I hate to say I've done a lot alone, but I've done a lot alone. But the reality of it is, the Ark was built by an entire family. So business is supposed to be built by families. Our biggest gangsters in this country who are even legal built their entire empires based on the family. Presidents, their entire families run this country. Their senators, their congressmen, their mayors, their city councilmen, their sheriffs, their cops. The question you asked me earlier, the things I didn't know, right? If I'd have known that I woke up one day and started an endeavor that I couldn't count on my family to be there, would I have done it? So my family's always talked about, we should start a family business. My family is nowhere to be found in any business that I've done for the most part. Entrepreneurship is a war. It really is. You got to have a sound team. People have to believe the passion. They have to believe the dream. You've got to have the resources, in some cases, to buy loyalty. But there's a lot of combination. I can't really answer that question yet because I haven't done it. I've done it for other people. I haven't done it for me yet. Not quite yet.
Question number 6. If you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
The type of people I'd like to see honored, people you typically don't see. People who make the world go round and they're not wealthy. They're average, everyday people who struggle check to check just to maintain, but they step out their house every day to make sure the next person has an opportunity that they don't even know, right? They're opening doors or creating passageways, and most people don't know. My wife's father was one of those people, just stupid talented. Lived in a community that otherwise probably would not accept him, ran for office, held office, created policies, created opportunities for other people, connected the dots for other people. But very few people in this world know who he is. But I can tell you, since we've lived here for the last 15 years, I haven't met a white person or a black person who can't say that this was a guy that didn't move the world for a lot of folks. And had he not done the things that he had done, most people would be worse off. People like that need to be celebrated. I think it's the little guy or the little woman, little gal, however the appropriate term is. I think it's finding those people who are heroes, those people who wake up every day, who create opportunities and educate our kids to see a bigger picture. You got to commemorate the people that most people say are nobody and not important. They ain't do shit. Most of the people who we say didn't do shit have done the most. They're the ones with the bricks on their back and the scars to live through it. We have opportunities because of the shit that they did. We just don't value them because we don't see them as successful. Nah, I don't know if a holiday per se, but I'm not a big holiday person. But I think celebrating people, we got to celebrate our people. We got to celebrate all our friends, all our family. And I suck at that. I'm not gonna lie. I like to think I say thank you. I know when I say it, I mean it. I'd like to think I pay tribute to the people who have helped me along the way. I've survived this because of people who have helped me along the way. I've been able to accomplish all the things that I've been able to accomplish because of the people who helped me along the way. Hell, we wouldn't be sitting in this building right now if it weren't for people who helped me along the way. And, I'd like to think that I'd celebrate them. Maybe you're giving me a pathway to figure out how to celebrate them more.
For more info about Miguel, you can find him online on Facebook and Instagram under f5enterprises.com, all one word, and also his name, Miguel Hampton. Also, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to listen. As I release this, it's a crazy time around the world, and I want you to take some time to connect with your loved ones, and please be safe. The next episode will release on April 1st. Yes, the next episode will be on April Fool's Day, and I'll be with stand-up comedian and professional wrestler, the Man Scout, Jake Manning. If you enjoyed this show, please get online, take 30 seconds, and leave a review so other people can see this thing and we can grow the channel. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Until next time, see it, hear it, speak it, live.
I hope you had a great day, everyone.